What is going on, everybody? 'Tis I, the enigma of the gun airwaves, Miyanovich, welcoming you to Season 3 of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, where unprecedented perspectives are packed into the cargo hold for the LGO Lens spaceship Voyagio.
That's fucking Italian.
Don't believe that evolution is possible with guns and public safety in America? It's already happening, y'all. Minds are evolving. Think guns versus public safety is the only game in town, do ya? Think culture war is the big boss, do ya? Then keep your ass in the past. Everyone else, all aboard! Where are you now? Before you were like, I don't know where I'm going to take it all next. I might do the Gun Culture 2.0 book. We might put a pause on the gun class. Are you still kind of in the same place?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more positive now with Sandy's gentle encouragement. And also, you know, I had a really great month in October with having a chance to speak to a Federalist Society, you know, gun law seminar. I went to UVA, University of Virginia, to talk to a public policy class about gun violence. I went to the other liberal gun owners organization at their national meeting and talked about being a liberal gun owner. So I feel like, you know, I'm finding ways of talking about what I'm trying to accomplish beyond the book, right? So I'm in this sort of beyond the book phase right now, and you know, I'm looking for opportunities to keep expanding in that direction. You know, that I took 12 years. I said my piece from this personal perspective about my journey into gun culture and what gun culture kind of represents right now. And I really want to push beyond that. And I have some opportunities to do that and to engage different audiences than that I've engaged before. And, you know, to those liberal cultured despisers of guns who've been, you know, so vexing to me in the process of getting gun curious out, you know, when I want to sort of think of, okay, what can I say to those people that will make them hear, not invite them to hear, but say, look, this is what you're concerned about. Here's what I have to say. And so, you know, I think going forward, whether, you know, I've invested a lot in that Gun Culture 2.0 book that didn't get into gun curious. So, you know, there's part of me like that, the carp swimming up the waterfall just thinks, you know, you've invested too much in this effort, so you need to follow it through. But also, again, thinking forward, you know, I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk about gun curious and those things. But, you know, I'm also trying to figure out what's the next conversation that needs to be had. And again, I think it's to steal from you. It's at the intersection of gun rights and public safety. And I feel like I'm well positioned to stand in that ground and, you know, try to bring other people into that ground, you know, to stand with me and to try to make a difference.
Yeah. If you can, not you, David, but if a general, you with people, this is why I think that when we say that liberal gun owners are uniquely positioned, but gun owners are uniquely positioned, I think also in terms of contributing thought towards the mitigation of the gun-related negatives. This is not all gun owners. This is gun owners with heads on their shoulders, but we're uniquely positioned. Liberal gun owners are uniquely positioned. From our perspective, which is what I have been working on now for years, also while the anthro pillar is happening, the law pillar has been happening the entire time. If we can answer the questions as to why we say no to certain gun regulations and the political behemoth of gun control, why we say no, what we would say yes to, and why. That's enormously important. And that's what I'm working on. What is my take on, after tens of thousands of conversations I've had? It's tens of thousands. And a 7-year-long conversation straight with Hunter Starr, constantly, almost every day, every week. There is a representation of what we would say yes to, what we would say no to, why we would consider certain things, what's off limits, what we might be open to conversation about. Not we have the fucking answers, like the Democratic Party would be like, we know this will stop it, which is not real. That's mythological. That's political rhetoric. That's for emotional effect. It's not based in reality. We would just represent, look, here's the reasonable take from our position. These are our boundaries. These are the things we're cool with. We're not cool with. Here's the why. And we're not saying we have the answers, because we don't. Just that other people like yourself can take it, consider it, and build your own. This is what I think. I cross over with LGO and Randy and Hunter 90% or 80%, but here's what I would think. Just being able to talk like that, I think is giant. So that's why, I feel a lot of pressure to get this stuff in and done. Because I agree. I think now we have to be out there, not just saying, hey, liberals own guns too, and it's kind of everybody, and hey, now it's going to be like, okay, there are fucking problems. Let's talk about the problems and what we would do.
Yeah. Sandy's always like, bring me your solutions, not your problems.
Yeah.
Right. And, or if you're going to bring up a problem, then, think about what can be done and not just complaining about the problem. Right. And I don't think that, gun owners have an obligation to address gun violence in the same way that, hey, guess what? I drink alcohol and I drive a car. I don't have a responsibility to think about ways of reducing drunk driving. But as someone who knows something about both of these things, maybe I'm well positioned to think about potential ways to address the problem that still allows me to drink and drive my car.
Yeah.
So, I invite gun owners who have a certain realm of experience that they can draw on to be part of the solution. And I don't have the solutions. I always say, this is one of the downsides of talking to media about the book is like, so what is the solution to gun violence? And I like, listen, if I had the solution, I would just give it, take my Nobel Peace Prize and retire.
Sure.
Like nobody who tells you, as we've already said, an hour and 10 minutes ago, like nobody has the answer to this problem. No. And anybody who says they have the answer to this problem is someone you probably want to, take with a few grains of salt. So, but doesn't mean that we can't collaborate and, put our minds together and think about, hey, we're gun owners, right? We know how to be responsible with guns. We know how to be safe with guns. What can we say to people who are very and rightfully concerned about the negative things that happen with firearms?
Yeah.
And this, all of the mental gymnastics that, people go through to defend gun rights without taking seriously, the responsibilities that go along with it. Again, I just don't have, time to deal with that orientation, right? I want people who want to try to help mitigate what is evidently a problem.
Yeah. Liberals haven't done shit for guns. In the great scheme of things, on the gun side, the gun rights side, we haven't really done shit. And generally, and what you represent, what I represent, what LGC represents, what Chad King represents, what other people represent, Hillel Nori, there's many other people, is the first wave of effort for liberals doing something for guns. And like I've said to you before, that quote from Moneyball, the first guy through the door always takes it in the teeth. That's what we're doing, right? So we're actually representing the first wave of liberal gun owners who do something. We also happen to have some pretty good brains involved. So this is what liberals do best, in my opinion. Innovate, tackle wicked problems, bring big brains to the situation. And that's what we're doing here. It's just hard. So the rhetorical question is, what does it look like when somebody who actually cares about gun rights, who's not a Johnny-come-lately, who's not on the news during the election cycle showing that they own guns too and shooting steel targets at 10 meters with an AR and the ricochet hits the journalist in the arm, or Tim Ryan trying to scrape up a win for himself a couple years ago is like, I shoot guns too. Not these kinds of people, but the people that are liberals that actually care about gun rights, who have brains. What does it look like when these people go into the literature or look at the patterns involved in regulations or anything to stop or mitigate gun-related negatives? What does it look like and sound like when these kinds of people do the reviews? When these are the people that review qualitative or quantitative, which I want to stay away from. It's annoying. But what does it sound like and look like when these people do that? Not the people that are in charge of the data collecting analysis engine, who are in your world, who are almost entirely dedicated to seeing guns as a pathogen or a third rail. They're going to give a certain kind of output. They'll make it seem fair. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But they're not the person who cares about gun rights. What does it fucking sound like? What does it look like? That's what we need to do. Not, hey, we know what to do. We're the wizards. We'll Harry Potter this up. What does it give society an example of what it looks like and what it sounds like, and start it, right? I think that's our mantle. That's what's being asked of us. And that's what we're going to fucking do as far as I'm concerned. That's what I'm doing, and we're all going to be doing it. So I'll start it, and I'll say, here are the patterns. Here's what Hunter and I have discussed. Here's what's good. Here's what's not good. Here's what's bullshit. These people are biased. Yes, we're biased too, but these people are definitely biased. And then professionally we put it out there, right? That's, I don't want to do anything else, right? That's the next thing.
I won't answer that since you said it was a rhetorical
well, you could.
question.
You want to try to answer it?
No, I would just add that I think that to the point about liberals sort of defending gun rights, I think that liberals have been able to kind of free ride on the work that conservatives do in defense of gun rights. And so not having to worry about, sort of selling ourselves in doing that kind of work. So, it's easy to just say, oh, that's other people have that. And, I'll just do something different. So I'm again, as sometimes distant as I feel from the conservative culture warriors defending gun rights, I also recognize that a lot of them are doing things so that I don't have to do them, and that they have been in the trenches fighting these battles much longer than I have. So I try not to be overly dismissive of them.
Right. Yeah, and we are riding on the wave of conservative effort still. The production of guns, the selling of guns, gear, ammunition, gun ranges.
Why could they have not? They could have just done all that and not done the other culture war stuff. The path not taken.
Yes. Perhaps they will learn a lesson. My thought is that if they figure out something becomes a threat to 2A somehow, if they're able to reach that level of nuance, then they'll be doing it. But right now they can't see that, right? But this path of division, I believe it's a threat to 2A for sure. So are you at the position now where you're deciding yet about what you're going to do with the class next year, or are you waiting on that?
I think that I am going to take a pass on the class next year, even though, I'm feeling a lot better about, staying involved. But as I retool myself kind of intellectually to keep doing guns, but from a different position, I think it'd be good to take a year off. And then when I come back to teaching it, it'll reflect more where I'm at currently. Whereas I think the class still sort of largely represents my thinking up to this point. I literally I don't do this because it's very awkward for the students to have to engage my book, and, they don't want to criticize their own professor. But there are certain ways in which I could just teach the book. That could be the core book for the class. And it wouldn't be that different from the way that I've got the class set up. But again, that's my thinking up until I finished the book about a year ago right now, probably a year ago this week. I finished the manuscript for the book and have been, spent the next year mostly just publicizing it. And so, it really does represent where I was. It's a authentic representation, but it's not where I'm going. So, 10 years is a lot of years to teach the same class in a row. I wouldn't teach my sociology of religion class that many times in a row, or my theory class. Like, you have to have a break every now and then just to sharpen the saw and refresh what you're talking about. So I'm at this point, I wouldn't say I'm never going to teach that class again, but if and when I do teach it again, it'll definitely be a different class.
Yeah. And I think I said to you before, that could be the best thing that could happen to your work or the class is take a year and refresh, because what LGO losing financing did for me is it took me off the merry-go-round and slowed everything down. Saved by zero, as the fix would say.
Man, I never thought about that. Saved by zero.
Saved by zero is what happened with me. Level of vision that wasn't there before. I wouldn't have been able to get to it. A level of conviction and a level of understanding. Because what I've been struggling with, as I said before, is about the collective and trying to involve the collective. But what I realized as a leader was there are times where you can't drag the whole crew with you through this certain patch of jungle. They're going to have to sit back at the camp, and you're going to have to take the machete, and you're going to have to do it. And then you'll bring the rear up later. And there is not going to be enough energy for me to be caring about other shit. There's going to be me and the machete and the jungle. And if I'm going to do that, I've got to pay the prices of the collective saying Randy's making it all about him, which is going to be a heavy cost, because that's exactly what many people will do. And then when I believe in myself and I start hacking through the jungle, people in both establishment circles are also going to have a problem with it. So I can't do that and not believe in myself or understand why I'm doing it. There's nothing for it in certain sections of that jungle. There's nothing for it. So I wouldn't have had these conversations inside of myself if I was still out there running around doing trainings and driving the country and having all the money I needed to do this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
The other thing is, it made me realize that there has to be a limit. There's a time limit to accomplishing these things. And there's also a limit for me. And getting through that jungle, I might not be able to do it as the executive director of Liberal Gun Owners. I might have to set LGO up, let somebody else run it, and go after the jungle myself as a liberal, but just as an individual who doesn't have to think about LGO. And I have to be prepared to do that, because I don't think anyone else is going to be able to do this. I don't see anybody else positioned to do it. And I didn't want to do it. And it's not like I wanted this, but it seems pretty apparent to me. So Saved by Zero made me have to go through all of this, believe in myself, the new reset, new direction for the compass, and be prepared to make decisions, even leaving LGO to get it done. Right. So,
well, that could be a situation where, you don't have time and energy to chop the path clear and then go back and gather up everybody at camp and say, okay, this is the way. I mean, you may just have to clear the path. And if the people back at camp get the idea that they need to follow, then they'll follow. But you have to forge ahead, because you can't do everything.
Yeah, because most people are going through this. I've talked a couple episodes back about how we're dominated by men, and many of the men in our circles are held back by this same struggle of people pleasing and letting other things dictate how we do stuff. And this particular portion of the jungle, it's not going to be friendly to that. It's not going to be friendly to that. And it could be dangerous for people to try to chop through this jungle if you're not healthy, stable, strong with yourself, right? This is not something you take on if you're struggling as a person. You got to go. So it's going to be, some people might not want to go, right? But yeah, this is what the whole, when David takes a year off, maybe you'll be going through a version of that yourself. You've kind of already been doing that, but I certainly have been right in my face the whole time. So not having a lot of money sort of forced it. Now I think I've learned what has to happen, and the universe is delivering things.
Yeah.
A little bit at a time. I wanted to talk about the book, but my main interest was I wanted to get deeper with you, and I wanted people to hear some of your depth, because it's important. And I think they don't hear it very much because of the way that you have to present yourself. And maybe this will really get to people's feels a little bit more. Like, Jesus, I forgot David's not a superhero completely. He's a fucking person. Because people think you're a superhero, man. They do. They, especially since that, the logo, but then the logo with the Bob Ross afro. Now you're really a superhero.
Oh, see, now the thing I need to do is I need to cultivate that more. I got to learn, his mannerisms and his sayings, and there's no mistakes, just happy accidents.
I desperately.
There are no negative outcomes, just unhappy accidents.
Just liminal spaces. I desperately want Will Ferrell to do a Bob Ross skit where Will Ferrell does the typical Will Ferrell thing where he tries to keep himself calm and then he just loses his fucking mind on people as Bob Ross. That would be amazing. But yeah, people do think you're a superhero, man. They really do. They think you're and they're not wrong about that. You're also a person, but you are a superhero, and it's good that people hear you struggle, you sweat shit, you worry.
Definitely. I am a robot. Please listen to my talking.
You have also sacrificed a shit ton for this fucking book. No, Sandy's right. Nobody died, but you sacrificed, man. You sacrificed so we can have this book. You sacrificed so we can have these. It is your job, but you go above and beyond for the class and light overheat, and you sacrifice, and people need to know about that. They need to hear it.
Yeah. I try to, use the, the sort of basic comfort level that I have in my job to say, okay, like I could just mail it in, I could just do what's expected of me and, be perfectly fine and keep getting a paycheck and keep, writing articles that 50 people will read and writing books that 400 people will read. And, what's the point of having the privilege of being in this position if you're not going to like try to make a bigger difference in that?
Yeah. And I'm going to respect you but try to present you with opportunities to get straight gangsta into doing that stuff, right? Like, let's go, man. Let's go do this.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you want to get some action in, let's get some action in. So that's part of this, part of the great sorrow of losing the money. I have a lot of regrets and sorrows that I feel was that, if you had published the book, whatever, 3 years ago, then I would have had a lot of money to throw your way to help, and a lot more. And that bothers me that I didn't. And the same thing is happening with the Black Bottom Gun Club or Walk the Talk America or these other places that need it. And I previously have had it, and it bothers the shit out of me. We have great ideas happening in the development space too, that if I just had 5 or 10K, oh my God, we'd have some cool shit happening, but we don't have it. So I just wanted you to know that bothers me. And I'm looking forward to in the future to, being able to pave some shit forward so we can get into some spaces, invest some things. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I think, we just make space. Saddle up. We ride it down.
I'm ready, dude. I'm ready. I'm ready to be fearless, but with baloney in the shoes.
All right. That's 2025 coming up.